All right, Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carvajal here, as always, with Matthew Hawkins. This week we're speaking with Dana White Contender Series contender Karl Reed, who fights in a few weeks. How are you, Karl?
I'm doing good, man. Actually, just got to finish up a training session with Coach Thompson, so I'm actually in his office right now. I'm doing this interview with you guys.
Awesome. So this is your second shot at the Contender Series. The first one didn't go your way. Unfortunately, you took a loss by decision. Your first loss ever, right?
Yeah.
I show you as 5-0 as an amateur and 6-1 currently as a pro. Is that accurate?
Yep, that's correct.
So your opponent this time is Julius Angelikas, who surprisingly, I don't know how much you've looked into him or how much you care. I figure you're just gonna go in there and try to kick his ass, but he is also 6-1 as a pro and 5-0 as an amateur. What do you know about the matchup? Is there anything other than his name that you know going into it?
Yeah, man, I know a lot. I know pretty much how he likes to tie his shoes. That's how much film study I do. I know everything is pretty much similar on paper, man. We're 5-0 as an Ami, 6-1 as a pro. We both lost to the same guy. He's 6'3", I'm 6'3". He's got like 77, 78-inch reach. I got 77, 78-inch reach. You know what I mean? So I'm curious to see how he's going to react when he's standing across the cage to somebody that's, just as big, if not bigger than him.
So, Karl, as I was doing my homework on you, I saw that you're originally from New Jersey.
Yeah.
How'd you wind up in South Carolina?
Got a scholarship to wrestle at Newberry College, so I went there, wrestled 5 years there. Once I got done, I got right into college coaching. When I started coaching, I went to Georgia, ended up coming back, and now I coach at Limestone College. It's a Division II school up in Gaffney, South Carolina.
And since you started training at Upstate Karate, are you still like is your base still wrestling, or do you consider yourself like more well-rounded since you've been training with Thompson?
Well-rounded. I take the fight not where it goes, but it all depends on what the game plan is. You know what I mean? So it all depends. Whatever our game plan is, that's where I'm going to go. Some game plans are striking heavy. Some game plans are wrestling heavy. So it all depends.
So which way do you think you see yourself going in this upcoming bout? Are you is this somebody you want to take down and ground and pound, or do you think it'll be a bit more of a standing fight, circling around a little bit?
Man, that's why you guys got to tune in on. And you guys got to tune in. I don't want to get the secrets right now, but I like to play chess in there, man. That's one thing I've always said. Coming up, I told Ray, Mr. T, I always told him I wanted to play chess, and that's what we do. So, I'm trying to exploit his weaknesses, take away his strong suits, and raise up my strengths. That's something I learned definitely after my first Contender Series trip. My first one, I kind of just went in there and just fought, really, and didn't have no plan for weight cut, had no plan for rehydration until, when the weight cut went bad. The rehydration wasn't in place, so it kind of, things kind of snowballed, after that. Just the whole process of everything kind of snowballed for me. So this time, I'm going out there, 2 years later, smarter, more experience, well rehearsed, in every area of the game. So I'm excited to go out there and put a smile on my face and have some fun.
Being that you're kind of used to the whole process of going on Contender Series, there's no jitters or nervousness outside of what you normally feel before a fight.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's just another fight. I'm not making this, I expect to be in the UFC. I expect to, fight big time. So I'm not making this fight, bigger than what it is. It's just another fight. Dana White just happened to be sitting in the stands. To me, that makes it no other mind. And to be honest, when I first went on, I didn't have that problem. I actually, I liked it. I mean, it's real airy in there, man, and you don't really feel it until you get in there. But you can hear a pin drop in there, man. There's no intro music. You don't, they ain't screaming your name to walk to the cage. It's, they tell you to go. You walk to the cage. You get greased up. You walk in. Your opponent gets in, they look at you, say, "You ready to fight? Fight." You know what I mean? You don't hear nothing but coaches yelling. I think the Apex Arena, they let in a couple more people in.
Yeah.
But when I fought there, it might have been 20 people in there.
Yeah, I think it's a different facility. The Apex is the bigger, newer one that's supposed to be like Dana White. He was actually here in New York at the hashtag Sports event, and he was talking about how it's supposed to be like the future of broadcasting combat sports events. So that'd be pretty cool to get your win in there and get the contract in there. Are you looking forward to? Have you seen the facility or heard anything about it?
No, I mean, I watched a couple episodes just to get my visualization down about how the wall's going to be, how the cage looked. But no, other than that, I haven't been there physically. When I went to Vegas for my media, I wanted to go check it out, but they weren't done it yet.
When we talked to John Lucas, who trains with you at your gym out there in South Carolina, and is a MD for a lot of the fight scene out there, and he was he really spoke well of the UFC as far as their medicals and just how professional they were when they came out there to Greenville. When you competed on your first time at the Contender Series, did you notice any kind of extra level of professionalism? Was there anything that stood out as far as, I know it's technically not a UFC fight, I guess, but dealing with Nevada and a little bit more of a high profile fight, did you notice anything different than what you had been dealing with previously?
They're very punctual, because everything works on time as far as broadcasting and airing certain fights, and they got to start at a certain time and finish at a certain time. So the one thing I know, especially this fight go around, I know I'm gonna be the first fight, so I know I'm fighting around 5:15, 5:30 at the latest. I'm gonna be in the cage, getting it on. So that's one thing I really, really like about them. They're on point about everything. A lot of regionals, you got to get there at 2:00, and then sometimes you don't fight till 11 p.m. So that's the one thing I do. They are on point, and they are, they run their schedules very, very tight.
They're only you're in South Carolina now, which is 3 hours. We're 3 hours ahead. I'm on the East Coast too. We're 3 hours ahead of Vegas over there. How do you adjust for the time as far like you training? Are you already training at the time that you would be fighting, or like how do you deal with it? Because I know for me, I mean, as an older, more out of shape dude, I don't handle the change in time that well.
We get out there a couple days before, so I'll get out there probably Friday or Saturday, and it only takes about a day or two, to kind of get adjusted to the time zones. And really, if you really think about it, 5:00 is 8:00 here. I train at 8:00 every single day. So if you really think about it, it's about the same time, that I train and I work out, that I'll be fighting. So, either way, I think I'm fine. I'll be well adapted.
How many people do they allow you to bring into the Apex with you? Is there a number, or is it are they kind of lax depending on knowing that you're coming from a good gym?
About 4. They give us 4 passes, So but this year I know they're saying other people can walk in, so I'm expecting to go out there and finagle a few more passes for some people that's coming out. But from what I hear, man, it's free to the public, so anybody can walk in. So I got a couple extra people coming out for me this time.
I think there's an email list though. I think they have to at least email and say that they're coming. It's free, but that's what I heard that they had with the last week's event. That's what I heard was happening through folks. So I write for SureDog.com. So someone that covered I forget what event it was, but they had mentioned that there's an email list that you have to at least RSVP to. So I would look for details on that with whoever your contact is.
All right, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's good information to know because I didn't know that.
I think your fight was initially scheduled for early July, and then I thought it was like the 6th. Do they just keep changing the dates, or was nothing ever in stone for your actual fight?
It was in stone July 2nd, and then they moved it. They just picked my card up and moved it. I think it just was too busy. I talked to somebody that works for the UFC. They just said, it was just too busy to do International Fight Week and get a Contender Series show in. because the same crew, they do all the. I mean, they fly everywhere. They do an awesome job. You know, Heidi, she's my go-to girl there. I think everybody loves Heidi, but you know, they fly everywhere. You know, so they come into Vegas. You know, they're going to do the Contender Series tonight, and then, you know, I guess it's UFC North this weekend.
Yeah.
They'll be in Jersey this weekend, you know, for the Lawler Covington fight.
So do you with the fight coming up, with your fight coming up rather, is there anything as far as like because Wonder Boy was talking about the Lawler Covington fight, was there anything that Stephen Thompson said to you as far as this time around, like helping you prepare mentally, or any advice that he gave for this upcoming match?
Yeah, man, you know, Steven, you know, just being him helps me a lot, man, just because he's one of the, you know, besides a fighter, he's just one of those rare guys in the world that is just always in an upbeat mood, you know, always having fun. So, you know, one thing I really learned from Steven, with him being, you know, kind of my mentor in the fight game, man, is just, you know, have fun with it. You know what I mean? Don't make it such a chore. So that's one of the things I'm really, really focused on this fight camp. And one thing I noticed, you know, we're working with my mental coach. You know, I work with wrestling mindset and martial arts mindset. So I actually do a lot of mental training. But I started tracking down, finding out what mindset I need to be in to have my best performances. And I noticed when I have good laughs and I have fun, you know, I go out and I kick a lot of ass. So one thing I've been telling myself this training camp, you know, because I'm always so focused, so want to do everything the right way, but just kind of, you know, relax, have fun. You know, it's another walk in the park, man. I didn't had, you know, close to 15 fights so far, you know, whether they're Amis or not, but I've been in there, you know, a few times. So, you know, just another fight, you know, just another fight. Every fight is the toughest fight of your life. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I approach it. So learn to just have a lot more fun. I think you know, that's one thing I'm really learning from Steven, man. He has fun every single training session.
Yeah.
Working all day long, you know, with the kids and everything. And he still got to train. He's still got a big smile on his face, and he's still ready to go.
One of the things that might not be so fun is cutting weight. How does that work for you? I know you said you're 6'3". Have all your fights always been at light heavyweight? And what do you cut down from?
Yeah, man. So I've had trouble with the weight cuts, and I think it really came to fruition my first time on a Contender Series. I had a brutal weight cut. Then I probably, you know, should have went to the hospital, but I sucked it up and didn't. And that caused me to gas really, really early in the fight. So, you know, after that fight, I took another fight. And I thought I corrected some things, and I had another bad weight cut. I actually was still cramping pretty badly before I walked out to the cage. Luckily, learning some experience, I knew how to slow the fight down. I made it out that one with a W. So after that, I contacted my guy Ari with the fight doctors down here. They work with some athletes like Justin Scoggins, Sarah McMahon, OSP, and a couple other guys, but they do their weight cuts, man, and he started breaking down the science behind doing a weight cut and getting it done properly. So, man, I start off, man, I walk around between 235 and 240. You know, I'm a big dude. But, you know, with all that being said, ever since I'm working with the fight doctors, my weight cuts has been beautiful. It's been great, man. I remember Contender Series and all my fights before then, I would cut down to 205 and I would walk back in the cage at like 211. You know, barely rehydrated the right way, you know, and taking a lot of stuff out of my body. I would cut too early, you know, and try to focus, you know, part of my camp would be focused on getting the weight down and not training. Now I'm keeping the weight up. I'm training harder, training better, longer. I only focus on the weight cut when it's fight week. And, you know, with their process, I'm getting back in the cage at 225, 226. You know?
Oh, wow.
Big, healthy, and you know, and explosive, and feeling like I can go, you know, 5 rounds.
That's interesting. I mean, you were just talking about the wrestling mindset and martial arts mindset. Given your experience coming from wrestling, did you find that? I guess, I mean, because usually everyone assumes that fighters that come from wrestling are already sort of experts at weight cutting, but did you find that you just weren't doing it right? Because some people just think they can be active, train for their competition, and then the weight cut will be easier. But obviously, as you get older and your body changes, things you have to change how you do things. So the martial arts mindset versus the wrestling mindset, do you think one helps you with the other as far as making the weight?
I mean, growing up in wrestling since I was in high school and everything, just the mindset was just always, you make the weight. No matter how, how you do it, you make weight and you show up and you compete. And I know one thing I can say, like, and even in college wrestling, high school wrestling, and through my amateurs and my first 4 pro fights, I just always thought everyone felt like shit. You know what I mean? Like, I would step in the cage or step on the mat and I wouldn't feel 100%, and I always thought like that was this is this comes with it, so I told Ari after, maybe my second fight with him, working with him, I said, dude, you probably changed my whole career, man. Now I get in a cage and I don't feel like I got to convince myself to go. You know what I mean? My last 4 fights, I've got in the cage and it was like, dude, it's go time because I got it in the tank. But like I said, he's breaking down the science behind it and just being a lot smarter about what I'm doing, how I'm cutting the weight, how am I, rehydrating and, carbs versus proteins, you know what I mean? What holds water, what doesn't hold water, like, all that stuff matters. You know what I mean? So, glycogen levels, when your glycogen depletes, how do you fill it back up quickly to get you ready for the next training session? So all that stuff, those fancy scientific words, they put me on. And since I've been doing them, I feel like I'm 18 again.
Wow.
You mentioned you started wrestling in high school, and I think I see that you're 30 years old. So just kind of doing the math, I'm 40. So I'm guessing you graduated somewhere around like 2007, 2008, somewhere in that neighborhood. So you were in high school wrestling really at the height of the UFC's popularity as far as viewership and really getting out there to become worldwide known. Was this something that you wanted to, was the UFC something that was on your radar? I mean, MMA in general, but the UFC being the pinnacle, was that something that was on your radar in high school and that you wanted to pursue, or were you even aware of the UFC? I should say.
Honestly, man, no, it wasn't at all. Like I wasn't. I was a huge boxing fan, so I would watch boxing a lot. But as far as in high school, man, like I didn't think I'd ever wrestle in college, and then I ended up, going to Newberry, and we ended up being one of the best Division II schools in the country during the era that I was there. We won conference championships 5 years in a row, finished highest and 7th in the country. We were always top 10 my senior year. We was number 1 in the country as a team. I've been ranked top 8 in the country as a wrestler. So I never thought I wanted to do it. And to be honest, in college, I even, playing around, we used to play UFC in college. And I would get on my back and guys would get in my guard and simulate punches. And I remember thinking, like, this is fucking retarded. Like, who wants to do this? So I was like, but I got done. When I got done college, man, I got this guy, Matt Perkle. He's a great friend of mine. He kind of got me into fighting, but he approached me. He's like, dude, you need to try fighting, bro. Like, I think, it'll be your niche, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm good on that. So, long story short, man, I went into college coaching. I took a job down in South Georgia, and, it was my first big job. I was a head assistant, and, man, I had an athlete, my second practice get a heat stroke, and then he ended up passing away about 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
So, when that happened, I kind of just rolled into a gym, trying to release some stress. I rolled into a gym, kind of started doing jiu-jitsu. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was, and 2 days out of the week, man, they had me, kicking and punching stuff, real backyardish. Jiu-jitsu was solid. The MMA was kind of backyardish, I'm not gonna lie. And I was picking it up quick. So, I called Purple. This is probably 2 years later after that initial conversation you had with me. I told him, I was like, dude, I think I want to I'll take a fight. So I took an amateur fight, man, with like really no experience, like no striking, no coaches, no striking experience. Kind of just went in there to see if I can take a punch. And I happened to take the job at Limestone, that next season. Found Upstate. I had actually was coaching a kid that trains here, John Sweeney. He's a pro for us now. he's 6-2 right now. So he was I was coaching him. He told me about Upstate. I didn't know who Steven was. I didn't know who Mr. T was. Came down just to check it out. Still didn't know if I wanted to do it full time. I took a fight under them after my first one. And even then I still was like, I don't know. I'm just playing with it. But then, I don't know, something clicked. I had a good conversation with Ray, and he kind of told me, he thought, he kind of the first guy to tell me, same thing Perkwood told me. He was like, dude, I think you can be really, really, really good at this sport, man. He was like, I can see you, being really good. I can see you being a world champ. So, I went back and thought about it, and I just said, you know what, let me, let's give it a go. Let's see what's up, and I told him I'll give him my all. And we mapped out a plan, and to be honest, funny thing is, the plan we mapped out was to be in the UFC by 2019. Here we are, 2019, and we get a shot in 2 weeks.
Oh, I hope that happens for you, man. I mean, that's actually a really great, that's a great background story on you. It sounds like, I mean, because we've actually talked to Wonder Boy on this podcast too, but talking to you and hearing you talk about the way things are at Upstate Karate, that sounds like a really cool place to train. Do you join Wonder Boy and wrecking the little kids with the dodgeballs too, or no?
Nah, I don't in on those, man. Nah, Wonder Boy's got like I don't want to say the perfect life. Everyone's got ups and downs, but he's been a camp counselor since he was like 14, dude. So he's been doing this for a long time, bro. He still loves it, dude.
I'm always interested when I talk to people because, I mean, hearing your story now, it doesn't sound like you grew up fighting a lot in the streets and stuff. I'm just going by your story as far as you talk about getting punched in the face and stuff. And as somebody who I trained a little bit in the late 90s when it was still kind of no holds barred, and I was never a person who prided myself on fighting in the streets and stuff. Did you have severe nerves? What was it like getting in the cage the first time? It sounds like, I mean, again, I might be wrong, but it sounds like from your story you just told that you weren't exactly somebody who was going around trying to beat up a lot of people in the street.
Yeah, no, I wasn't that guy. I wouldn't claim to be that guy. I've been in some fights. In the wrestling room, you get in a lot of fights. I think Newberry, I think I've probably been in a fight every single year. But to walk in the first time, honestly, man, it was like I love the lights, man. I like the show. Like I get goosebumps when it's time to walk out there. Like, and I have fun. So it was my first fight, and I actually was fighting a local guy, and we were in some bar, and it was packed out, man. And that was the first fight, and everyone was rooting against me. Let's just put it like that. And I loved it. I loved the environment. I loved the energy that came with it. You know what I mean? So I fell in love, pretty quickly, man, just about the experience. And then, like I said, after that second one, like I wanted more, you know what I mean? So, I love getting in the cage and putting on the show. Like that's the best part for me. Get in there and get to, show my art. It's fun. It's an adrenaline rush, and you don't get that feeling, anywhere else, man. There's nothing like getting your hand raised after going through a straight war, and getting the other side of fair, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds awesome, man. I mean, it's just amazing. You mentioned how you were a boxing fan. Did you ever try before you obviously got into the being well rounded and with jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and striking over at Upstate? Did you try boxing at all on your own, or were you anyone you tried to emulate when you were competing as an athlete, like coming up as in wrestling or when you were fighting on your own amateur?
So boxing always intrigued me. And I know right after the first Contender Series fight, I noticed I needed to get back to the basics in every area. You know what I mean? So it don't matter. I don't care what style you have. Like every style, striking, grappling, wrestling. Like there is a base. There's a base style for this game, and I went back to the basics. I put the gi back on in jiu-jitsu. Wrestling, I went back to folk style wrestling. Greco and the ties, and then striking, I went back to boxing. So I box, about twice a week now. And I got a boxing coach that just works my hands in defense. And really, it's opened my kicks up a lot, since I started doing it. So, as far as emulating, like, nah, I was an Anderson Silva fan when I first started. So, he was a little flashy, real athletic. I was an Anderson Silva fan. So, I know when I did start fighting, I did tell myself early that I wanted to be different. I didn't want to just be, throw hands, wrestle, and ground and pound. So, which is a different approach for a traditional wrestler. I know, but I think it's paid dividends for me. I haven't had a guy step in the cage yet and feel comfortable. Go train at other places. I sense it on them. There's a sense of uncertainty. When I'm in there.
You mentioned Anderson Silva, and usually it's about 50-50 with the fighters I talk to who are fans of the sport and who other people it's just completely a job and they kind of don't really pay attention to the world of MMA. Are you a fan of the sport, or is it something you see more as a job and you don't like to necessarily? And do you spend your free time watching fights?
Yeah, I study a lot. Mostly like it's not. When I watch, I'm studying. You know what I mean? I watch. I'm looking at why is he doing this or why is he doing that. You know what I mean? And I try to break down and analyze and figure out those questions. And it's helped my fight IQ definitely. Tenfold. It's getting to the point now that which is Steven would come to me and ask me, dude, what do you think about me doing this for this fight? You know what I mean? And when the first time he asked me, I was like, huh? You know what I mean? But I said, nah, bro, you break down fights pretty good. Like, what do you think? So, yeah, I'm a fan. I love watching it, but I also, I study a lot. So a lot when I watch, I'm analyzing, breaking down, watching, trying to catch on to, whoever's leading the dance, what he's seeing and what he's doing.
Who impresses you? Who impresses you out of the fighters you see now? Not necessarily you're going to compete against, but anybody that jumps out in the UFC right now that you're just fascinated by?
Fascinated by.
I mean, like as a wrestler, how do you see like Khabib Nurmagomedov or somebody like that? Do you see anything special about that, or is it just wrestling?
I think Khabib, he's got great cardio, and I think he works his style, man. He has set patterns that no one's been able to break yet. His patience in there surprised me a lot. Like he's, constantly. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm gonna keep going until I get it. Curious to see how other people approach that style, and no one's been able to crack it yet. I'd like to say I got a remedy for that. Just thinking and just studying, putting my coach's hat on. Other than that, man, of course, just a guy that I really would love to fight, John Jones. He impresses me just the fact that he's the one guy I think in the UFC that kind of gets it. I think he knows, being eclectic is better. I mean, he don't have an A+ in any area, but he's got straight C's and B's across all the board, man. Like he can fight left side forward, he can fight right side forward, he can fight with distance, he can fight in close, he can take you down, he can grapple with you. He kind of made himself being able to do everything. And when it comes to that, when you're able to do everything and you're fighting a bunch of guys that are one-dimensional, now it's kind of easy to put game plans together to say, well, I'm going to fight this way since he's good here, or I'm going to fight that way since he's good there. A lot of guys can't do that. A lot of guys got to go in and say, okay, well, I'm a boxer and a wrestler, so this is what I'm doing. I just got to make sure I do it better than whatever he can do.
Yeah. That's
what stands John across from, sets him apart from anybody else.
Absolutely. I can't help but agree with you 100%. I mean, there's that saying about jack of all trades, master of none, but he seems to have mastered every small part of the game just enough to surprise people every time he steps out there. Well, Karl, I mean, I know you said this is the time you usually train, so I appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us. I hope we're not cutting in too much of your training time.
Oh no, I'm done. I'm good for a day.
Oh,
bro.
you're done? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. But I do appreciate you talking to us. Just to clarify the date, it's August 13th that you're fighting?
Yep, August 13th. August 13th, 8 p.m. ESPN Plus. First fight of the night. So tune in.
Oh, wow. First one, ESPN Plus. All right, cool. I don't know. That's all from me, Matt. I don't know if you have anything else for him.
No, I just want to thank you for coming on. Your gym's been pretty friendly to our show, so I want to thank everybody over there. And wish you the best of luck, man, and look forward to hopefully talking to you after you pick up a big win and we hear about your UFC contract. I'm definitely interested about being able just to walk in or email about going to the Contenders, because I mean I'm 4 hours away, but it's something that might get a wild hair and take a couple days off work. So I'm gonna have to look into that email too. But yeah, man, just wish you best of luck. Do you want to throw out your Instagram handle or Twitter or any social media so people can follow you?
Yeah, man. First of all, I'd give a big shout out to the Fight Doctors, handling my weight cut and everything. Definitely Healthletic Meals. They're a meal prep company up here in the Upstate. To deliver right to your house. Very affordable. Put down your macros and everything. They help me get down as well. Big Rig Truck and Trailers, my man Dan. Any type of truck and trailers you need, he'll hook you up. But Instagram, you find me at @NoWorries_Reed. Twitter is No Worries Reed. And Facebook is Karl No Worries Reed, man. Everybody tune in. August 13th. Gonna put on a show, baby. ESPN Plus, first fight of the night. Don't blame.
Again, fans, that's August 13th, ESPN Plus, Dana White's Contender Series, Karl Reed versus Julius Angelikas, both 6-1 pros. Should be a hell of a fight. We'll be looking forward to watching it. Fans can always catch us on Twitter at Combat Hour, on Instagram at Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, myself at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. You can catch Ed at Carbazol on Twitter and at Carbeerzol on Instagram. Again, best of luck, Karl, and thanks for coming on, my man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much.